Hello, Mozilla Festival. Yay! My name is Seher Shafiq, and I'm the Global Community Lead for the festival. And I have the honor of working with our incredible Mozilla Festival community. Before introducing our next speaker, I want to peel back the curtain a little bit on how our community programming has come to life over the past year. For those who don't know, the majority of our festival programming has been curated by our amazing Mozilla Festival Wranglers. They are a cohort of 25 leaders from almost every continent on the globe and across various sectors ranging from product, tech, policy, philanthropy, digital rights, journalism, Web3, creative industries, and more. When we began this journey, we came to the Wranglers with one word: unlearning. From there, Wranglers worked hard all year to unpack what this one word means from their vantage points. They co-curated our festival subtracks, reviewed nearly 800 session proposals, and supported hundreds of session hosts so that we could all experience the rich sessions, installations, and experiences that we have over the last few days. So thank you to our festival Wranglers for ensuring that our programming is truly community co-curated, and a massive thank you to the over 500 session hosts that have brought their ideas to life at the festival over the last few days. And I also want to mention that in the same spirit of community care, we have decided to add a panel right after Chelsea's talk titled Unlearning Cis-Normativity: Why Trans Justice is Tech Justice. It is now my deep honor to introduce our next speaker, Chelsea Manning. For those who are unaware, which is probably not many here, Chelsea is a former US Army intelligence analyst who became one of the most well-known whistleblowers in history. In 2010, while serving in Iraq, she leaked hundreds of thousands of classified military and diplomatic documents to WikiLeaks. These logs revealed tens of thousands of previously unreported civilian casualties, human rights abuses, and corruption. Chelsea has shown us that no matter the circumstance or system that we are working in, choosing truth-telling, transparency, and tenacity is always an option that is available to us. I am deeply honored to introduce her as our next speaker. Please welcome Chelsea Manning.
Can I get the prompters? There we go. Part 1, the rectangle. A solemn pact between parallel lines and right angles. An endless companionship of edges that never meet, yet always agree. This form ascends in quiet determination, summoned by proportion itself. Between its sides lies a chosen ratio, height exceeding width by just less than double. Neither divine nor accidental, it endures a geometry of stillness, drawing our gaze inward, much in the way that gravity pulls us to the ground. It is small enough to slide in your pocket, yet large enough to become a portal to the entire world. And that is precisely what these pocket rectangles are: portals. They are portals used by some of the most powerful institutions, corporations, and people in history to intrude into our day-to-day lives. Over the last 3 years, I have taken a giant step back from using my pocket rectangle. In its place, I've embarked on a journey to regain my senses. The goal was straightforward: to define, but not so much to actually, the The goal was straightforward to define, but not so much to actually accomplish. To regain my sense of grounding, my sense of self, identity, and purpose. As part of this journey, I have been going out to see, hear, and experience much more art, music, nature, and food. And, much to my advantage, I just so happen to live in New York City, the most lively and diverse city in the world. No offense. Earlier this spring, I visited the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art. With my small gaggle of friends, we explored a few of the museum floors. Quietly shuffling among the groups of mostly North American and Western European tourists, we arrived at the famous Warhol paintings, including the wall of portraits of Campbell's soup. Nestled in the corner, one of the exhibits caught my eye, a shrine created by Augusto Machado. It included photographs and memorabilia dedicated to famous trans figures, most prominently Candy Darling and Marsha P. Johnson. They are two historic figures, artists and radical trans women from the mid-20th century. It was in that moment that it dawned on me how much I had something to say. Something urgent and fiery came over me in that moment. The room was not silent, but it was as quiet as a library and as solemn as a funeral. I did not want to contemplate in peace. I wanted to share my thoughts with my siblings right then and there. So I did, at the same tone and volume that I'm speaking to you now. I spent the next half an hour arguing with my friends over the significance of modern and postmodern art, especially how much I despise Andy Warhol, who to me embodies everything hollow and empty in our society. Some may argue that Warhol was not celebrating commodification, but exposing it. I understand this interpretation. However, the act of embracing the spectacle without questioning it still fuels the machine. It was at that moment that it dawned on me. I stopped dead in my tracks, my friends looking on with concern. "Chelsea," one of them asked, "what's wrong? Are you okay?" As I kept arguing, something clicked. Warhol wasn't the beginning of this problem. He was a latter symptom. The feeling of emptiness that I had in the gallery was not just about consumerism or repetition. It was about immersion without agency. Andy Warhol did not invent that dynamic. He merely perfected a world where the audience stops participating and becomes an observer. I suddenly recognized the pattern and its source. "No," I said with a serious expression on my face. "It's worse than Andy Warhol. It's Richard Wagner." Part 2, how Richard Wagner ruined everything. In the 19th century, the German opera composer with an affinity for Norse mythology imagined that art could become total. He envisioned art not merely as a performance, a story, a piece, or a staging, but as a complete envelopment of the senses. For him, this was not simply about control. It also acted as an attempt to unify multiple art forms into an experience that felt more alive than any single medium could achieve on its own. He called it the total work of art, a seamless fusion of sound, movement, architecture, myth, and illumination. In his vision, the audience would no longer exist outside the work. They would be contained by it. This is where the trouble begins. Before Wagner, art tended to be unruly. For example, at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, the pit was a chaotic social affair. People drank, they argued, they heckled the actors, they flirted with one another, and shouted their own interpretations of the story, even as it unfolded. Consider the chorus of Henry V. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. The play was not a sealed object. It was a living exchange. The boundary between stage and audience was porous, constantly negotiated. Meaning was not messy. It was collectively made up with people playing along. Plays, concerts, and operas were pure social events. In parallel to the rise of industrialization, Wagner deliberately altered the shape of that relationship. He darkened the halls and closed the doors until curtain call. He buried the orchestra and demanded stillness. This innovation was, for its time, radical. It reshaped what audiences expected from art. But it also introduced a new power dynamic. In the hush he created, he trained the audience to surrender themselves. The viewer became passive, with an ear or a gaze absorbed without question. Art ceased to be conversation and instead became a commodity. Attention was no longer chosen. This was the start of its extraction. That shift opened a door that would never be closed. Soon, others came to understand the power of immersion. Nearly a century later, Leni Riefenstahl took this concept and ran with it. She took Wagner's aesthetic and welded it into political myth-making. In her films, the camera did not just witness, it choreographed Germany's fascist movements. It shaped feeling into unity, replacing any nuance, dialogue, or argument with awe and even dread. Even after the horrors of the Second World War, the wreckage of that seduction and evil enchantment did not vanish. It simply morphed from terrifying ideology to a dry sales pitch for everyday items. Consumer-based capitalism quickly learned that it can use imagery, logos, and brand identity in the same way that empires once used banners. By the late 20th century, the shopping mall became the new house of worship. Which brings us back to my artistic nemesis, Andy Warhol. Many philosophers of the time, for some reason mostly French philosophers, attempted to describe this shift. For instance, Baudrillard argued that objects no longer held value in how they functioned or what they cost, their exchange value. Instead, they became symbols with their own value, what he termed sign value. Meaning could be bought and sold. The world became a glossy surface, and depth or complexity became optional. The evidence of this becomes clear when Warhol walked into the factory and transformed the entire economy of art into pure sign value. He actually refused to critique the spectacle. Instead, he perfected it. He emptied art of interior life until only the shell remained. Repetition replaced reflection. Kitsch without the substance. Others see this as a mirror held up to capitalism. I see it as capitalism absorbing the mirror and selling the reflection. Fast forward to today. We have now been exposed to 2 decades of training on our pocket rectangles. To value social sign above all else. Now, everything has become glowing emoji buttons coming from our little rectangles, like slot machines at a Las Vegas casino. And this was by design. Warhol likely channeled what Wagner began. He exploited that which Riefenstahl herself exploited. In silence, in stillness, in the immobilization of the audience, power flows in only one direction. Part 3, the internet as an agent of change. This is not the first time new media have shattered meaning. As Elizabeth Eisenstein argued in her two-volume work, The Printing Press as an Agent of Change, the Renaissance and the Reformation gave rise to the now familiar cultural and political fragmentation. With the invention of the printing press, sacred texts became reproducible. The doctrine spread rapidly, but so did heresy. Gutenberg's machine democratized knowledge, but it also mechanized persuasion, as well as manipulation. In many ways, the printing press was the proto-algorithm. And by the 17th century, the 30 Years' War broke out in the Holy Roman Empire, not just as a religious conflict, but as the violent intersection of technological innovation and fragmentation of political authority. Out of the chaos came the modern state and secular institutions, the Peace of Westphalia, claiming the moral authority once held by the church. In place of divine right came rules and agreements. Today, we inhabit a new rupture between technology and society. The nation-state occupies the symbolic role of the church. Capitalism assumes the role of cosmology. Now, the internet, once heralded as a force of liberation, has become the backbone of a system of commodification and transaction. Social media has transformed identity into a performance. Truth is now optional, or at least debatable. We no longer communicate to connect, but rather to signal. I am important. I am knowledgeable. I deserve your likes and subscriptions. Sign value has metastasized into a vortex of self-reference. Now we signal our signaling. I believe this crisis can be understood through Claude Shannon's foundational work in information theory. He distinguished between signal and noise. He was not trying to explain human connection. He was rather examining an engineering problem: how to transfer information accurately from point A to point B. But when a model meant for wires and switches and telephone lines is applied to people and culture, something shifts. The question is not what does it mean, but did it arrive intact? As media systems scale, this reduction of transmission and communication becomes dangerous. Meaning is sacrificed for fidelity. What matters is not depth, but delivery. In the pursuit of perfect transmission, the idea of imperfect collaborative meaning-making is treated as inefficiency. We have perfected the mechanism, but abandoned the value of the message. In a world governed by Claude Shannon's machine logic, signal dominates, and meaning dissolves. Anxiety about this condition is not limited to theory. Among younger generations, there's been a noticeable rise in social nihilism and political accelerationism. The sudden interest in trad culture, the sudden yearning to return to pre-industrial authenticity, the embrace of radical neo-Luddism. These are symptoms of a culture in a spiraling epistemic freefall. They are not calls to action so much as signals of despair. Part 4, God damn it, Cory Doctorow, or Why Everything Sucks Now. I ride a lot of trains. I'm very train-pilled. So occasionally, I find myself waiting on a delayed train at a train station. After a highly publicized protest at the US Capitol building where I got arrested, I took the DC Metro to Union Station to head home. Unfortunately, due to system issues, my train was delayed. I found myself stranded with several dozen other passengers. Naturally, after a few days of preparation, pep talks, protest chants, getting arrested, getting released, celebrating with pizza, I was pretty tired. I wanted to sit down. Over 15 years ago, I often rode the train and went through Union Station in Washington, D.C. I occasionally recall that Union Station once had numerous benches and chairs for people to sit on. Today, there are very few seats available, usually behind clear windows and with guards. Anyway, not seeing an open seat available, I sat down in a quiet corner of the station and checked in with my friends back home in Brooklyn. Then the security guards showed up. "What are you doing here, miss? You can't sit here." I'm waiting on the train. This is a train station. I'm waiting for my train. "You can't sit here," they said. Everything sucks now. You can't sit here anymore. Everything is hostile architecture. Everything is dark patterns. Everything is a transaction. Everything is a line in a database. Everything is paywalled. And listen, I love you, my dear friend Corey. However, I despise the fact that you make me say enshittification in front of a live audience as if it were a serious academic term. The point is, we are surrounded by systems. Systems that optimize not for human flourishing, but instead they exist for behavioral capture. Nudge, loop, extract. We have been well trained for decades, and even for 2 centuries, to passively consume our intellectual diet. And yet, our spiritual cups remain unfulfilled. And yet, our spiritual cups remain unfulfilled. And yet, that feeling inside of us of connection, of belonging, of humanity, it remains unfulfilled. Do you feel fulfilled when you move your finger across a black rectangle? Do you feel more connected? Is any of this filling you inside? I want to challenge you all for a moment. Relax for a moment. Feel the ground beneath you. I'm 100% serious. This is extremely important to me, so journalists play along too. Take a nice deep breath inward. And exhale. If you are able to and want to, stand up for a second. Please. Now, if you can, find the nearest stranger, somebody you don't know, and say hello. Ask them where they came from and why they're here today. All right. If this feels uncomfortable, ask yourselves, why does this feel uncomfortable? Why do you feel uncomfortable talking to strangers? And when you look at the way society is structured, you start to understand why, and you can feel that. Excellent. Part 5. In closing, I have nothing to sell to you. I have nothing to promote to you. Just know that when you're unsure what to do, when you don't know what you're doing, I encourage you to go somewhere like a park bench, if you can find one. Don't read a book or listen to music. Just sit there and absorb the world around you. In a world where every second is a cherished commodity, one that feeds a multi-trillion-dollar technology industry of data collection and monitoring and engagement, allow yourself to do the most defiant and powerful thing. Allow yourself to be bored. Now, this isn't about going outside and touching grass. Instead, we need to find the burning desire deep within ourselves to go outside and touch the grass. To simply go outside and touch the grass risks becoming just another performance. That sign value that Baudrillard was mentioning, no, we can seek the finer things in life. Our will becomes the last remnant of what Baudrillard called the real. That inner force not overpowered by the spectacle or presented before us through our pocket rectangles. As the chorus goes in the latter part of the prologue to Henry V, think when we talk of horses that you see them, printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass for the which supply. Admit me, chorus, to this history, who prologue like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. Stop being satisfied with nourishing yourselves with cultural soylent. Imagine something greater and real and organic. Our precious few seconds of life in this world are more valuable than capital can contemplate. And remember, being bored is a human right.
Give it up. All right. We are now going to move to a Q&A. We've got 2 microphones set up for Q&A. This is going to be moderated. If you want to get a chance, you can line up the mics for a chance to ask questions. We might do them out of order. I'm going to call on people as they line up, so you can get up if you have questions that you want to ask. Don't be shy. I know a lot of you have questions. We can get started. I actually might start to ask you some questions just to get warmed up. You're
Sure.
not shy. You can get up. It's okay. We've got the mics right up here. One of the things actually we were just starting to talk about is before we came out. This is your first time in a little while getting back out, talking to people. I want to sort of start. I mean, there's so many provocations here and so many things to sort of get into, but I wanted to kind of get into the meta level a little bit. You are stepping back out in front of people, putting yourself out there again. What's the sort of prompt that's gotten you to be, using your voice again? What's the piece that's moved you so much to say, this is the message, this is the time to share this message right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I needed the grounding because, like, one of the things that happened when I was released from prison is I was immediately thrust into public eye, and there were a lot of attention. And so the context here is I really hadn't lived any life for like a long period of time. Like I would often get I often get questions like, Chelsea, what is it like to be in prison? What is it like? And like, it's very hard to answer those questions whenever that's the reality that I know, and I don't have like a like normal life, like, or like I don't know the experiences of like what it is like to like pay rent or to live, you know, to like go out or to like do normal things. I'd only just sort of lived these like sort of chaotic, fragmented periods of time in my life. And I wanted to like get a taste or a feel for what it's like to as I put it, no longer be famous anymore.
Yeah.
There's a song, Dallas Major, in which there's a great lyric in there that really resonates me, in which it's I'm almost nearly 40. And I used to be or my name is Dallas Major. I used to be famous, and that resonates with me, especially because like I go now for the last 2 years, I've been going about my daily lives, not being recognized, and it's been kind of a little weird to be out among the people.
To be free of it.
Yeah, to not have questions asked of me, to not have, and it's allowed me to grow in a real way. And to be grounded in a real way that I hadn't before. I was always a little mechanical, or a little like I was going through the motions whenever I was doing speaking engagements or when I was like answering questions in the media. And even my book is a very sort of, you know, memoranda style book. I mean, I talk a lot about my feelings and my experiences, but going through that process, I feel like I wrote a book too soon because I wrote this memoir, and I was like, well, I'm.
And you were still a baby.
I was 30. I was 29 whenever I finished writing the book, and it came out a little later. But
yeah,
you know, so yeah, I think that this moment, I mean, it was a real. Like because I live in New York City now. I've been living in New York City for 6 years. I'm still a transplant. I got 4 more years to go before I think New Yorkers. Yeah, you're agreeing.
you're getting there.
Yeah, but like I didn't know I was gonna stay there. I didn't know that I was gonna live there for a bit. But I'm staying there, and now I feel more grounded, and I feel like I have more of a sense of like what I want to do and the things that matter to me, as opposed to like thinking of like, oh, this is what's being asked of me. And so having that confidence and that groundedness is allowing me to sort of come back out of my shell a little bit. I needed some me time. I needed a little sabbatical.
Love it. As we jump to the audience questions, we'll grab a seat.
Yeah.
Get yourself comfortable. We good?
Oh, I'm good. I'm standing.
All right. You don't want to? All right, I'm sitting. We got one at the mic. Go ahead.
Hello. Thank you so much for your inspiring talk and insights.
Thank you.
I'm Tadas. I work at Mozilla as a software engineer. But before, I was a classical musician. And I have to say, I did not expect to come to this conference and hear references to Richard Wagner. So I so appreciate your insights about culture and music specifically, especially in relation to Wagner and the effect he had on everything that came after it. I feel it's so easy to disconnect society and art from the technological and societal problems that we have, and I feel so grateful that you integrated them, because we very often underestimate the effects of art and its sort of broad effects on society. So thank you for that. But my question was, in your life, you have experienced such profound darkness and felt sort of the weight and power of the United States, you know, in some ways attempt to crush you, and you have managed to survive that. And in a time where I feel like darkness is eclipsing light in the US and honestly throughout the world.
Not New York.
Not New York, right.
Big Apple, baby.
Very true. That was the news we all needed recently.
You got two New Yorkers up here, so we're pretty biased.
Yeah, and I went to school in New York, actually,
Okay.
so I have a profound amount of love for the city. But I guess broadly, I'd love to know how you maintain a sense of hope and a sense of direction in these times, especially when it seems like there is so much coming against us. How you maintain a sense of like center and the other things you say to people to sort of mobilize and push back against this, especially when it feels like the darkness is getting that much more encroaching in our lives.
Yeah, I've been asked this a couple times in just the last 2 weeks. So it's a great question. It's a relevant one. People often ask me like, oh, what is hope, and like how do you have hope, and how do you maintain your optimism, and how, because I feel very optimistic about that we can figure these things out, that we can overcome sort of the as you put it, darkness. But one of the things that I've always found interesting is that is the sort of linguistic way that we describe hope is like this like thing that like you give me hope. Like I analyze that a little bit, and I'm just like no, hope is something that you just have. Like it's something that's deep inside every one of us, and you have to like cherish that and like let that come through, because nobody can give you hope. They can help you, guide you to the hope that's in you, but it's something that's there. And then for like, how do I allow that sort of experience to make me get through like difficult times? I mostly just reflect and use a little bit of humor, because my life story is kind of funny. Like that's how I've processed it. So I occasionally do improv, which is also a part of this sort of journey. Like I've done a couple of comedy bits with some of my friends in Brooklyn, and like it's like it's kind of like if you think about some of the things that are going on, it's kind of absurd. It's kind of absurd. Like it's very easy to sort of get extremely focused on how terrible things are, but it's also like I think important to realize just like how kind of ridiculous this like world that we've created is. And by taking a little bit of that distance, like it kind of enables us to do something about it, maybe. Because that's kind of how I feel, is like I sat in solitary confinement for like 11 months in a Marine Corps base in Virginia with 2 Marines watching me at all times, which is kind of funny. Like if you think about it, because like they're just sitting there behind the one-way window at all times, and I know they're there, and they always check up on me, but like this is what they're doing to me. Like I'm just a, like trying to make them like break character, trying to make them feel uncomfortable, or at least like make them feel like this is an absurd thing. Like there's an underlying humanity, and there's an underlying absurdity to all of these sets of circumstances that has allowed me to like process a lot of that.
Thank you.
There's an aspect of what you're saying. Oh, please. Yeah.
Hi.
I was just going to pause for a second. The abolitionist Mariam Kaba talks about hope as a discipline, or hope as a practice. And it sounds a lot
Absolutely.
like what you're saying is that sense of the practice and the discipline.
That's a better way of putting it than me.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you're articulating it in sort of the fullness of having experienced it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting here. We got one more question at the mic.
Oh, okay. Hello, what's up, New York?
Howdy.
All right. I want to say, first of all, thank you for your bravery and being the person that you are. Like, you're a gift to us, and we appreciate you being here. I wanted to speak on a couple of things. Just one, growing up in New York City, there was no grass to touch for me as a kid in the 80s that
Yeah.
wasn't infested with crack or something. And a lot of young people in the US are growing up that way, where the level of encapture is so total between the digital and then the carceral physical.
Yeah.
And now people are feeling even more hunted with what's going on with ICE and migration and
Absolutely.
immigration services. And considering that kind of feeling of total capture. And I'm a university professor, UC Santa Barbara, gender studies, and the students that I'm teaching, their imaginations are almost captured completely.
Yep.
The way that they approach knowledge and books, and as you said, have become almost distilled to a sign. So I guess I would ask, how do we create spaces, radical spaces, for togetherness, but also pleasure, for also releasing pain in vulnerable ways,
Yeah.
for conspiring together for radical futures? What do you imagine can be between the digital and the physical that we can actually create?
I've been thinking a lot about that. So I've been thinking a lot about that. I've specifically to the students, and they're like, I've encountered a lot of young people, especially in the art space. I go to a lot of art shows and art performances and concerts in Brooklyn and in Manhattan, and not all of them are good, but you know, I consume, you know, I absorb them as well, and I critique them, and I sort of process them. But one of the things that I've noticed with the sort of capture among even artists is that younger artists seem to have like an idea of like, I'm going to produce art or artwork, and it's viewed through the lens of like what they think will be popular on Instagram. So, and then it's like whatever is they see on Instagram, and it's just sort of like this feedback loop of like art and culture that we've been seeing. Like it's everything that sort of postmodern philosophers were really talking about in the 60s and 70s, sort of coming to fruition. And as for creating spaces, I think we just have to make them. Like you can't, whenever spaces are captured by a system, and we did this in prison, which is a total capture environment, we would just do things. Like you can do that. You know, obviously there's a risk involved, and obviously there's a response to that, but sometimes it's worth like pushing back on that just to like have your the way that I got through a lot of 3 years of general population was we had our little D&D group. So, and did the prison like the fact that we were playing D&D and had all these sort of things and like dice and like various objects? I mean, they weren't thrilled about it, but we made sure, and we were like, this is a priority for us. This is our escape, more than just like watching the TV. It's our way of integrate. It's our way of like. It had a positive effect on people, like to have these social spaces, and we had to create them, and we had to fight for them, and we had to like, and you know, whenever they would push back on us, we would resist them. So
roll a nat 20 for freedom.
What's that?
Roll a nat 20 for freedom.
Yeah, I mean Let's keep going.
So technically, we are supposed to be out of time. Who's up for some more time for these questions?
Yeah.
I think so. All right, we're gonna moderator's privilege. We're gonna keep rolling. We got a question at the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Patrice Kerr. I'm a researcher in robotics and AI and an artist. Thank you very much for this very interesting talk. I mean, I really enjoyed the breadth and the spread of it. And my question was about how did you actually select the different inspiration or people that you mentioned, like from Baudrillard to, of course, Walter, Wagner, whatever. So you had this specific icon that you attacked, but there are so many others that could be attacked. So how did you select these? Because the story you tell is so sincere and so captivating that it's really interesting, those key person. Thank you very much.
It was in there. I got really mad. I've obviously read a lot of things. I've obviously read a lot of these books, read a lot of analyses. I've read modern and postmodern philosophers, at least the English translations. My French is, and as I've been going through my life, I just found that like I've been just having more and more passion as I've been like encountering things. It was this disconnect like in MoMA where I like have to pay $30 to like go and see like the shrine that was made, and there's like these multi-million-dollar like kind of absurd pieces of art. And actually, one of the things that made me the most mad was, and I wanted, like, I didn't know quite how to integrate it into this, but I'll share it with you now. That so this is what didn't make the cut, so to speak. Is Yoko Ono had this piece at MoMA called "Art to Step On," and so it's an exhibit where you have footprints on it, and it was where people were stepping on it, etc. And around it is a "Do Not Touch" line, and I find that infuriating because what is art? What is intention? And that really was like a very like jarring example of sort of the commodification of everything. Was like, okay, like this is valuable. Like it's the intention of the art was to walk on it, to step on it. It's called art to be stepped on, and yet you've like enclosed it so you can't step on it, which is infuriating.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I must very reluctantly say that we are at time, but Chelsea, your courage, your compassion, your conviction, I think it's something that inspires us all. Will you please all join me in thanking Chelsea?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.